and nobody is going to come to fight Hamas instead of Israel. The breaches to the ceasefire that are continuing because Hamas terrorists are crossing the yellow line from time to time and try to undermine our forces, attack them, and challenge the situation. Okay. The second thing is even more challenging is the fact that Hamas has declared, contrary to their statement and their obligation under the 20-point plan, is that they are not going to disarm and that Gaza is not going to be demilitarized. That runs completely counter to the plan. We are thrilled, Pranay, to see Prime Minister Narendra Modi coming. I think this relationship is very unique and it's more than just, national interest. I think that there is a sense of feeling, very deep feeling.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi would soon be visiting Israel, and this is a visit which is long in making, long overdue. And to discuss what India and Israel are trying to build through this high-level visit, I'm being joined by Ambassador Reuven Azar, Israel's ambassador to India. So welcome to India today.
Thank you, Pranay, for this opportunity. It's always good to see you.
My pleasure, sir. First question, since Prime Minister Netanyahu has already announced that he's expecting Prime Minister Modi next week in Israel, what we should expect, what the people of India and Israel should expect from this high-level meeting, since this visit was in making and you were involved in the preparations. So what are the big deliverables we should be looking at?
Well, we are thrilled, Pranay, to see Prime Minister Narendra Modi coming. I think this relationship is very unique and it's more than just, national interest. I think that there is a sense of feeling, very deep feeling, both in Israel and India, of friendship towards one another, because we trust another. We've built this for decades now, and we feel very confident in the relationship, especially given the challenges we have to overcome in the last 2-3 years. I think the sense is pretty similar on the Indian side. We know how to come to the help of the other in times of need. We are consistent with our friendship, and that, I think, has gathered a lot of recognition in Israel. So we are going to we've been taking advantage of the fact that the Prime Minister is coming to try to deliver and finish processes that have been long going in different fields. Okay, so defense is, an essential pillar. And here we are going to sign an updated security agreement that is going to allow us to go much deeper and wider when it comes to our defense cooperation, both G2G, but also in the private sector. Thanks to that agreement, we are going to be able to open up cooperation in new technologies, advanced technologies, because the defense challenges have become very significant with the development of technology that has been very rapid. So, the Prime Minister wants to discuss with his counterpart how we're going to engage together in the future to overcome these challenges. And the agreement is going to prepare the ground of that. So immediately after the signing of the agreement, there's going to be rapid implementation, because following the visit, we're going to see high-level delegation from our Ministry of Defense coming to India to immediately implement what was agreed upon. So that's very encouraging. And of course, there are many other fields. We are talking about, we want to concentrate in the emerging technologies.
Before you describe about the other areas, but if you can help us understand the finer grains of this defense cooperation agreement, because recently, a few months back, India and Israel concluded the big and a very important defense agreement. And as you mentioned, that this is going to be an important area. But are we looking at, since the AI summit is also, so AI application in defense and security, are we looking at those areas, or the quantum computing, or the transfer of technology, because India needs the technology? Is Israel ready to share the high-tech, cutting-edge technology with India?
So fortunately, we are having, as a preparation for the visit, another visit that is starting tomorrow, of our AI czar, the guy in charge of AI in Israel that sits in the Prime Minister's office. He's coming to Delhi, and we're going to have very high-level meetings with people both in high-level government, also in the private sector. The idea on AI is not just to discuss policies of AI, but actually figure out a way of advancing tangible projects. For example, one field that we're interested in is building data centers. That is a tool that we need both in the defense sector and also in the civilian sector. And the question is how Israeli companies can engage with either governmental or private entities in India to start building data centers. Okay, we are also talking about R&D. We have an innovation fund that we want to expand. So this is one of the deliverables for the visit. Try to see how we can expand the financing for the innovation fund that we share. We have universities coming to India to try to forge more and more developments in that one. On cyber, we have developed a joint concept of centers of excellence in cyber. And our cyber authority has been speaking with the relevant people here. We want to see how that is going to expand. What is going to be India's government's position on how they want to spread this, what we call cyber labs around India. We can be part of that process. So we are trying to see how to implement.
But Ambassador Azar, since Kargil to Operation Sindoor, we have seen that whenever India and Israel came together, the results were delivered on ground. Right. So any big defense, project where Israel is looking for a bigger participation in India?
Well, it's difficult for me to go into details. What I can say is that the challenges of the battlefield as a result of AI have become more substantive. I'll give you one example. Combination of drones with AI. That is creating both significant threats, but also gives significant opportunities. I think Operation Sindoor was the first time in which, if I am correct, there was a need for an integral, let's say, an integral sort of attitude to air defense, in which you have to grasp all the huge amounts of information that you gather in real time and decide what tools to implement in order to counter the threat, and that has to be done in fractions of a second. Okay, so the person that was handling that in Israel is the person that is coming tomorrow to meet his Indian counterpart. So yes, we are ready to engage in that conversation because we share the same challenges. So it's very relevant. It's very relevant, and
absolutely,
it's coming up from the needs that we have identified in the course of the last rounds of let's say attacks that we had on both countries.
Obviously, we are looking at a concrete deliverables as far as these deliberations and these meetings are concerned. But Ambassador Azar, we know that India-Israel cooperation is not only limited to defense and security; it's multifaceted, from agriculture to semiconductor to which are the new areas. We know that how India-Israel collaboration has delivered in the sector of agriculture, but animal husbandry, many other things are being worked out. Which are the new frontiers, which will be explored during this visit or this meeting?
So one field we've been working on extensively in the last year is the field of infrastructure, because Israel is lagging behind on infrastructure. We are both young countries, that didn't have the resources to fully develop infrastructure in the first years of our existence, and now, fortunately, we have increasingly those capabilities. So we see how India has been building itself. This country is a construction site. You can see it everywhere. And you have developed big companies that are capable of implementing infrastructure and delivering them, on time and with a competitive price. So we are looking for including Indian companies in the international tenders we put out, because we are going to invest $200 billion infrastructure projects in Israel in the next 10 years. The biggest project is the metro, the greater metro for the Tel Aviv area. And we have already engaged in multiple delegations in order to make sure that Indian companies can participate in the process and also win. I'll give you a short example. Next year, we are coming out with 10 tenders of $800 million each for the Infra 1 part of the greater Tel Aviv metro system.
Not only companies, you're also inviting and you're also having Indian professionals to come to Israel.
Yes, I'm talking about not just workers. I'm talking about companies that have experience in implementing these projects, because we don't have enough experience. So that is another vertical. In addition to that, we are looking at the financial areas. Institutional investors in Israel are interested in the Indian Stock Exchange. They want to be part, of this amazing growth that is happening in India. So we found out that we don't have enough regulations that will allow us to, do the trade directly. We had to go through cumbersome mechanisms, and we want to streamline those. So there's a lot of work to do. Transportation is another field.
Since you mentioned about the infrastructure projects, IMAC is the very ambitious project where India and Israel both are keenly invested into. What exactly is the status of IMAC? And, since Prime Minister Modi recently mentioned about the IMAC, but I would want you to reflect on that. Where do we stand on that project? Is it still on paper, or has any work started on ground?
What we know for sure is that as a result of this opening that India is conducting, after all the agreements you have signed with Australia, New Zealand, EU, Britain, the United States, and the FTA you're going to sign with us, which is another deliverable we have to get, right? The volumes of trade coming in and out of India are going to double and triple in the next few years. That means that trillions of dollars of merchandise are going to move in and out, and you need infrastructure for that. So the whole idea behind IMAC is to add another layer of logistics, plus combining the potential of having India work with the three biggest economies in our region, in West Asia, which are UAE, Saudi, and Israel. Okay, so of course it's up to each and every country to decide to what extent they want to submerge themselves in this avenue. But what is real is that we have to prepare ourselves. So in Israel, we are doing some preparations under the auspices of the Ministry of Transport to upgrade our border crossings, especially on the eastern side of Israel.
But Ambassador, IMAC was announced on the sidelines of the G20 summit hosted by India. But after that, we have seen, given the current volatility of the West Asian region, don't you think so that there are serious questions and doubts about the future of this project? Because, currently this area is seeing conflicts and tensions.
Yeah, well, this is the Middle East, we have to navigate according to what is happening. We weren't expecting, for example, to see tensions between the UAE and Saudi Arabia, but this is part of reality now. So at the end of the day, we'll have to work with what we have. My underlining assumption is that as a result of the fact that we have several governments along the IMEC corridor that are pretty stable in terms geopolitically, unlike the situation in Iraq or Lebanon or Syria or Iran, etc. These governments are quite stable. They have economies that are functioning. They invest billions of dollars in their logistic infrastructure, and they are capable of doing projects. Now, to what extent this is going to advance fast, I don't know. But the vision is going to stay there. There is the physical part that I told you that we are starting to build in Israel. We already have developed the ports on the Mediterranean. We have overcapacity there. They can handle that. On the eastern border, we have undercapacity. So we have to upgrade that. And then we'll have to bring, all the relevant agencies from each country to cooperate with each other, whether it be customs, whether it be security, because most of the merchandise that is actually flowing terrestrially today through the Gulf to Syria and Turkey is not even insured. Okay, it cannot be insured because of the conditions that are pertaining there. So if we want to do something that is an additional layer on the maritime, commerce that is already happening, it's there. If we want to add another layer, we have an opportunity. Whether we're going to, at what speed we're going to untap that's a question. Sometimes, in our region, you have to wait until things happen politically to be able to do the work and the coordination that is needed. But I'm very optimistic because we have done this in the past.
You mean to say that the volatility is the part and parcel of the dynamics of Middle East?
Yes. And despite that volatility, we managed to bring Israel to a GDP of $65,000 per capita. We are building our country. So yes, it's more challenging than dealing with other parts of the world, I confess. But on the other hand, it's doable. And I'm sure that with the will and the empowerment that the government is giving to the private sector, both in Israel and India, and in the UAE, and hopefully also in Saudi Arabia and Jordan, will be able to
fix these challenges.
Yes.
But Ambassador, as you mentioned about the FTA, I was really keen to know from and hear from you that what is the progress on FTA? Can we see some concrete step, some conclusion, or some kind of agreement during this visit of Prime Minister Modi?
Well, we just signed the TOR when Minister Piyush Goyal came to Israel, and the first, official negotiation round is going to be happening in Delhi, actually during the time that Prime Minister Modi is in Israel. So I find it hard to believe that we'll be able to nail the FTA now, but I think that the trip can give us the confidence that we will have the political backwind for the negotiation teams to finish it as soon as possible. We want to finish it, before the end of the year, and I think it's doable. It's not that complicated.
You mean to say that by December 2026, we would be in a position to conclude the FTA, India-Israel FTA?
Yeah. I think there's no doubt that that's possible, and we will find out when the teams come here. I've been talking with the professionals. They have a pretty high degree of motivation to do it. They understand the importance, and they're going to
If you can help our viewers understand that, what exactly mean that India and Israel conclude an FTA? What are the big ticket things, which will be mutually beneficial to both the economies?
Well, it's an interesting situation because Israel already has exposed itself. We had a policy of free trade since the 90s. So the maximum customs that you pay in Israel is about 8%. It's not much. However, there are many things that we can do in order to untap the potential in the relationship between the countries. Things that have to do with chains of supply, removing the roadblocks on the chains of supply, so Israeli companies and Indian companies can work together on production, for example. We can lower the costs of that. We can regulate the whole thing, let's say, realm of workforce. The Indian government is already exporting work in the private sector, already exporting a lot of workers to Israel. We have doubled the amount in the last year, from 20,000 to 40,000. But the question is, how many engineers and high-tech professionals would be allowed to come to Israel to work? So that's something that we want to deal with as well. There are financial aspects of the cooperation, bank transactions and other things. We want to engage in programs to encourage the private sector to actually do business. So all these things are going to be discussed in the negotiations. And I think if we nail it, it will be an amazing, signal for the private sector that it's now much easier to do business in India. Because, frankly, I had the sense when I arrived here that we are driving on a dirt road, We don't have enough direct flights. The banking transactions are too cumbersome. We didn't have the financial connections that are needed. We didn't have a bilateral investment treaty, which we signed when the Minister of Finance came here last year.
Yes.
We don't have an FTA. So these are all, look at it as an infrastructure of getting from a dirt road to a highway. Okay. So we need, as government, our responsibility is to pave the highway for the private sector to feel comfortable to do business. This is our role. And that's how, that's why this visit is so important.
But Ambassador, let's move to the regional dynamics again, because Gaza peace plan is already in place. President Donald Trump is likely to head the first meeting of the Board of Peace. But this is all happening at a time when Israel is being accused of violating the Gaza peace plan and the ceasefire. How Israel would want to respond to these allegations, because there are many, ceasefire violations happened in the Gaza region.
Well, first of all, we are used to it. We're going to be accused of different things. We live in an area which different entities, including Hamas and others, are in the quest of not to make peace, but in the quest of trying to eliminate us. So fortunately, we have created the tools during this war to get our country to be safe. So we have a buffer zone in the Gaza Strip that we control, and our communities in the Negev are finally safe. In addition to that, we have created a situation in which the humanitarian flow of goods into the Gaza Strip is done according to the 20-point plan. The challenges for the implementation of the plan are twofold. The first is as you said, the breaches to the ceasefire that are continuing because Hamas terrorists are crossing the yellow line from time to time and try to undermine our forces, attack them, and challenge the situation. Okay. The second thing is even more challenging is the fact that Hamas has declared, contrary to their statement and their obligation under the 20-point plan, is that they are not going to disarm and that Gaza is not going to be demilitarized. That runs completely counter to the plan, and not only Prime Minister Netanyahu, but also President Trump has clearly stated that Hamas has to be demilitarized. If that doesn't happen, that's the greatest threat on the implementation of the plan, the greatest threat on peace, and the greatest threat on Gaza reconstruction.
But Ambassador, are you hopeful? Is Israel hopeful that international stabilization force could be deployed in that region, and countries like Turkey or Pakistan or Indonesia or many other countries, those who have committed for the Gaza peace plan and ISF for the troop deployment, can they deliver the promise of demilitarization and of Gaza peace plan, or can they make Hamas surrender weapons?
Well, we are not fantasizing. We understand that we don't live in a fantasy world, okay? And nobody is going to come to fight Hamas instead of Israel. There are two options here. It's up to Hamas to implement the program or demilitarized. We have destroyed most of their military infrastructure, but there is a question that has to do with the infrastructure they still have inside the areas that they still control. It's about 45% of the Gaza Strip. And if they refuse, the ISF won't help that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we already stated that we are not in the business of inviting.
Why do you say that ISF won't help them? Won't help the situation? Yeah.
Well, it can help the situation if Hamas voluntarily demilitarizes. But they have stated, and we understand that they won't come to enforce and to fight Hamas. Okay, so we are not hoping for that. It's either you get diplomacy.
Do you have suspicion about the ideological position of these countries?
I'm going to get to that. So it's either Hamas implements the plan and renounces power in the Gaza Strip, and then the rest of the plan can be implemented, or that we're going to go back to a situation that Israel has to enforce the situation. Okay? So we prefer to give diplomacy a chance. Now, when it comes to other countries, we stated clearly time and again, and you can quote me from other interviews, we are not in the business of inviting unfriendly countries that are not committed to the fight against terrorism to be part of this force, okay? And we have said that time and again. So I think that this is very clear. There's a difference.
Who all includes this unfriendly?
Well, we already said that countries like Pakistan, Turkey, and Qatar are in the Board of Peace because they are required under the plan to put pressure on Hamas to implement the plan. But we don't feel that they are sincere enough in the commitment to de-radicalize the situation, okay? So there's a difference between the fact that President Trump has invited different countries to the Board of Peace in order to exercise diplomatic pressure, and what is going to happen on the ground in terms of the composition of the forces that are going to play out there, okay? So we already have a center of coordination that is working out of Kiryat Gat, which about 50 countries are represented, and this mechanism works very well. So we hope that this constructive dynamic will continue. We don't want to bring players that will challenge the situation by creating unconstructive steps. I'll give an example. Yesterday, I think I saw an inauguration of a new mosque in the Gaza Strip that was financed by the Turks. Okay, the name of the mosque is called Abdallah Azam Mosque. Abdallah Azam was an assistant of Osama bin Laden in the creation of Al Qaeda. So if this is the intention of these countries to recreate a hotbed of terrorism and fanaticism in Gaza, then peace is not going to work. We have to deal with people that are committed to peace, are committed to de-radicalization and to reconstruction.
So Israel stand prepared, even if the ISF is there, with these forces to fight?
First of all, we will never compromise on our security. Israel is keen to get to a situation that the 7th of October cannot happen again. And therefore, if demilitarization doesn't happen, first of all, we won't withdraw from the Gaza Strip. We control about 60% of the Gaza Strip, and the areas that are under our control are quite neutralized in terms of the terror threat. Okay? Now, if we cannot get the other 40% neutralized, it means that we won't be able to take the risk and withdraw. It means that Gaza cannot be reconstructed. So it's either done diplomatically, and if it's not, then we'll have to, according to our interest, use the military option that right now there is no need for us to implement because there is an alternative. But that alternative has to work, and it has to work with people that are committed to the vision put forward by President Trump and to the implementation of the 20-point plan.
Ambassador, another area where diplomacy is being given chance is the US-Iran tension, or rather Israel-US and Iran tensions. Yeah. In Geneva, a big meeting is being hosted by Oman and mediated by Oman. But recently we have seen the statement by Prime Minister Netanyahu, and this statement came after his visit from Washington, D.C., that there are certain red lines which Israel has made clear, including the nuclear enrichment capacity or the infrastructure of Iran, and that also included the missile cap. Prime Minister Netanyahu mentioned about the MTCR requirements. Do you think that these red lines are actually pushing this region, or the stand of Israel is pushing this region to another potential conflict? Because again, Israel is being accused of getting or dragging United States into a conflict.
Well, first of all, these conspiracy theories that we are dragging, you've seen President Trump, how he conducts himself. He's very independent in the way that he makes decisions. Fortunately, we see to a larger extent, eye to eye, the situation in Iran. Okay, what was actually putting a threat in the region and creating conflict were the real hegemonic aspirations of Iran. The fact that they have created this structure of a military nuclear program, a huge ballistic missile program that would be able to destroy any country in the region, and their assistance to their proxies and their terror groups throughout decades. Okay, so the fact that we've been able to degrade that is a great hope for diplomacy in the region, because there was no hope whatsoever to get a stable Middle East under a diplomatic umbrella while Iran was putting that kind of threat on us. They swore to destroy us, okay, and they were developing the plan to exterminate us and the rest of the region. So now, finally, there is some real American leverage over Iran. Mm-hmm. And that leverage has to be used wisely. And I think that this is what the Americans are trying to do. Mm-hmm. That means that you have to completely neutralize the nuclear program of Iran, and that has to be verifiable. It cannot be along the lines of the JCPOA from 2015, because that clearly didn't solve the problem. Okay, you have to put very severe limitations on the ballistic missile program, and you have to put limitations on the policy of Iran of helping terrorist organizations throughout the area and transferring this very advanced technology of manufacturing of missiles and ballistic missiles to parties such as Hezbollah and the Houthis, etc.
But Ambassador, do you think that the conditions put by Iranian Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi, that we are only discussing the nuclear program and capping of the nuclear program, and missile caps or the missile limits are off table? Do you think that this could also be a deal breaker for these negotiations?
Well, the Iranian regime is trying to negotiate, and I think they are putting ridiculous limitations that actually are endangering the entire diplomatic process. So if they think that after all this aggression that had been exercising throughout more than 3 decades towards the region, after they deceived the international community time and again and breached not only their commitments in the context of the JCPOA, but the basic commitments to the safeguards agreement of the NPT, after all that, they think they're going to have a pass and we are going to trust them to put partial limitations on their program. It's ridiculous. So either they get to their senses and change course and actually cooperate with the American demands, and if they don't do that, I think that they should have learned by now that the American threat is a real threat. So we hope that they come to the senses. I think that this positioning by Arakchi is quite unrealistic, and we hope that they change attitude fast, because time is running up.
In the last, I would just want you to clarify that the possibility of dismantling the missile infrastructure of Iran is still being considered as an option on the table by President Donald Trump, or even as the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yeah, you have to ask them. For us, it's very clear, because we saw, how they were building this program. They had a plan to create an arsenal of about 10,000 ballistic missiles. Imagine that we had to withstand the biggest ballistic missile attack in the history of the world only last year, when they fired hundreds of them. And it has a great potential of damage. We had to invest billions of dollars to defend ourselves from that. And this was done with the intention of exterminating us, and we are not inventing it. The Iranian regime has stated that time and again. There even is a designated place in Tehran in which they display their plan to exterminate us. So we have to take it seriously. We won't live in a situation in which these limitations won't be put on the Iranians, and if they are not put on them, and if they don't accept them, they will have to suffer the consequences.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your time and sharing your thoughts. Thank you very much.